Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Control Port Podcast, episode 295. I'm Benjamin Yoder, here today, talking about video games. Gonna be honest with you, a classic throwback. It's been a while. Haven't really been playing video games much recently, or maybe I should say the games I've been playing are things that I don't really have anything to say or update you about. You know, it's like more Babylon's Fall, more Animal Crossing, sometimes more Somabringer, things like that, right? So, hasn't been, more Ghost of Tsushima as well, getting through the legendary mode for that. But, yeah, so some of those games I'm not really ready to talk about yet. Other games I, don't know if I'll talk about. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But anyways, so, this week's going to be a news-heavy week for you guys. Before we get into news real quick, my cat is going crazy right now, so if you hear some jingle bells going on, I'm sorry. But anyways, if you didn't see, PCFX Fan Club is up and live, episode 0. So the reason why it's episode 0, because it's pretty much an introductory episode. If you've listened to the past episodes I did with Filler about the PCFX, this video is going to be pretty similar, pretty covering a lot of the same information kind of thing. But I think what I really wanted to do with that episode in general was, just lay out the PCFX stuff, but I didn't really want to focus on that. But B was also just kind of like follow the path of how me and Filler got to the PCFX in some ways, and kind of show that I think in a lot of ways me and him came from very different spots. And I think, like, even with Filler, like, I think he came from a very different place than a lot of people come with the PC Engine as well. Because it sounds like he came from more like a Sega CD angle and things like that. So in that show, I think as we talk to people, we'll want to ask people kind of how they got to the system, because, especially with people who are passionate about the system, a lot of people, I think, ask the question of, like, why are you interested in this system? Why do you care? Like a lot of people are like, the system isn't good, or the games just, or the system is just really inaccessible because of the games and things like that. So I think that was really a goal of mine to some extent. And I think that's something I do want to, like, focus on more in the future, possibly. I still have been kind of playing around the idea of, like, bringing other people on to do certain things, but I'm kind of split on if that's going to be something that I open up more generally, or if it's going to be something I do, like, in a multi-tap podcast kind of way and kind of reach out to individuals individually. And I don't know. We'll see. I won't say too much of what I'm thinking about that. I feel like the beginning of this year is a lot of me thinking a lot about how I want to do things. I'm still open to, like, certain things getting cut as well. So I'm not saying that I'm, like, settling that this is going to be the minimum at this point. I'm trying to, figure out where my time's best spent. And if there's some things where I think there's a more exciting way to kind of approach, something that I'm trying to do, I might end up doing that. But for now, moving as is, like the streams. Actually, on the streams, we're doing something a little bit fun. I think I talked about it a little bit last week, but we started the King of Fishing series, which is basically just a, like, ranking of fishing mini games. I actually find it, like, really fascinating and very fun. So this week we actually did another one, just one game though. Otherwise, we just played the normal Chocobo Tales, Chocobo. I almost call it Chocobo Dungeon, but it's Chocobo Fables. No, Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo Tales. I can get the name right. But anyways, so we played that, and then we did Final Fantasy 12's fishing minigame. And, I think we had this discussion when we were playing that a little bit, at least me and I think Joseph was there. And it was like, this is, like, a very simple fishing mini game that doesn't really fit in line with what a fishing mini game usually is. And I think that's kind of, like, the fun thing about the series so far is, like, a lot of these fishing mini games feel like they're being handled in very different ways that I've just never really thought about before. And so I think it's really fun ranking them and things like that. So I'm enjoying that, and I think that's going to be a feature that's going to stick around for a while, at least as long as I feel like I'm getting some interest out of it, I think, at the very least. So yeah, although I don't know if I'll be doing that next week. I haven't really planned out the stream for next week yet. And then this is just kind of on the side, but Babylon's Fall audio editing stuff is coming along, but that video is not going to be done anytime soon, unfortunately. I got the panel coming up here at Level Up Expo. I need to double check that I can actually say when it is. They gave me the day and time, so I got to look to see if that's, like, an actually locked date and time. And then I still haven't really worked on it, so I'll need to make some kind of promotional image for it and title card, things like that. Not anything, crazy. Just make, like, the YouTube thumbnail essentially for it a little bit ahead of time, just so there's, like, something that people can look at on my feed. But most people who are coming to those events aren't really people who follow me normally, so I'm not too concerned about getting that thing out like anytime in the near future. So you guys will see it, I'm sure, when it gets uploaded, assuming everything turns out right. That's the caveat always with all these panels, is that if it doesn't turn out like in a usable fashion, then I won't upload them. So yeah. So that's been kind of like what's going on with that stuff. I'm also been doing some real work consideration stuff. So this is like kind of where the thing is like, maybe I might end up cutting more, but we'll see. Like I'm trying to make some consideration of like what would be the best place to use my time right now. And especially as I try to, I've been working part-time for the last like half a year, and like it's not sustainable, right? So I need to figure out what I need to do. So I'm just trying to figure out like what that looks like and what to do from there. And that might require me to take some time away from, some of the things I view as like the least essential stuff that we're doing right now, and put it on pause or hold it indefinitely, or maybe trying something else to kind of make sure I have the time to do what I need to do, kind of thing. So anyways, very exciting time, though. What was pretty exciting this week, though, is that there's actually quite a few video games that kind of were just like announced and released, I think, or at least, some of these I think might have been announced a little bit beforehand, but we do have a few video games that came out, I think, within the last week at the very least. So the big one, I don't think I need to really say too much about this for most people here, is Hi-Fi Rush. This is that Tango Gameworks like rhythm action, I guess action game, I guess you could say, almost like an arena brawler kind of thing from what I've seen, but I have not played it. People seem to be really liking it though, but if you haven't seen it, it's a very like cell shaded, rhythmic action game kind of thing, and it just, the whole world kind of moves around the character in a rhythm as well, and I think they did a lot to try to make sure that the player character, or the player playing the game, no matter what type of rhythm level they have in terms of their capabilities of tracking rhythm and things like that, they have the resources they need to do what they need to do with that. So yeah, and it was just like a surprise drop out of nowhere. It isn't like a full price video game. It's like $30. So I don't know how long it is, and it's on, Xbox and PC, and it's a first party Microsoft game, from Bethesda technically. So, but yeah, it's really cool to see that come out, because like I feel like Microsoft has not had a good video game win in a long time, right? And I feel like this is like maybe the first time in a long time that we've really had something come out and go like, oh, that's neat, Microsoft, that's cool. I feel like the last time there really was like kind of that feeling was Sunset Override, or whatever it's called, on the Xbox One. And like, I know people didn't like 100% like that game, but I think people generally were like, hey, this is like a really good first step for Microsoft and kind of like recovering their image and putting out games. And then like most of those video games either like, didn't perform as well as people liked it to. I know people didn't like Recore that much, and Crimson Dragon, and then also, D4 and things like that. Well, I think people like D4, but it's a very niche type of game. But it feels like Microsoft's been kind of like struggling to get software releases out for a long time. And even going into this generation, I feel like everybody's just been like, what are you doing, Microsoft? Where are these games? And like, obviously they desperately want them, I'm sure. I don't think they're like, saying like, whatever, we'll do whatever, making video games is definitely an art, and it doesn't like, turn out the way you think it's going to turn out. And whatever was happening, with them, don't know if it was a management issue or just bad luck, all those things. But it is really nice to see them get a game out there that people seem to really enjoy, and that it is a game that looks like it has a lot of style and personality. I will say I don't particularly care for the dialogue that was in the trailer that much. It did feel very Sunset Override of like, again, just from the trailer, I have not played the game, but it felt very like corporate cool, I guess is what I would call it, of just like, it feels like, yeah, I would say corporate cool is maybe the best way I'd put it. I don't know if that is descriptive enough, but it was not really up my alley from, again, what the trailer showed. But the game's out and people have played through it, I believe. So, there's plenty of full reviews out there if you really need to get some full impressions. I thought about checking it out, and, I could definitely run it on my PC, but I just got other stuff going on right now, so I just kind of pushed it off for now. And I would rather play it on console as well, and I don't have an Xbox at this point, so... the latest Xbox I have is an Xbox 360, so, we're not, I'm not exactly up to date, and I was talking to a friend about this between, like, why I'm going to choose probably a PS5 over Xbox Series X or something like that, and it really just comes down to probably Final Fantasy at this point. But Hi-Fi Rush is a great, reason for me to look at other platforms for sure, and look at the Xbox. But, it being on PC means that if I really, really, really want to play Hi-Fi Rush, I have a way to go about doing it right now. So, still, hoping that Microsoft puts out a decent lineup of games this year. I think so it came from like a video called like the Developer Direct or something like that. So it's like Microsoft's, Nintendo Direct essentially. And they showed off, I believe it was like a Forza game, but like the more traditional one, not Horizon. I have no feelings on that. I think that was a 2023 thing. But I know there's a large number of people out there who still care about like, simulation car racing stuff, and things like that. There was Redfall. I didn't really, from what I saw of Redfall, I was not super impressed, but, it could be good. I'm all for multiplayer shooters, though, so, there's a good chance someday I'll play Redfall within my lifespan. And then I believe there's 2 other games, but I can't remember what they were off the top of my head, to be honest. So, unfortunately, even Microsoft's first-party output is not, super, super appealing to me most of the time, in the same way that, Sony's first-party output is very rarely appealing to me nowadays. Fantavision is their one game that I'm like, I kind of want to play Fantavision, but it's like a PS5 VR thing, and I was like, I'm not touching that anytime soon. That's like $1,000 hardware investment to get to Fantavision at this point. So yeah. But anyways, Hi-Fi Rush, I'm glad it came out. I'm glad people are really enjoying it. It looks great, and I would like to play it someday. Don't know if that will happen, but I would really like to play it someday. Another game came out on the Nintendo Switch. I don't know if this was announced before. It's the first time I noticed it, and it's called DoraThink. And DoraThink is, a Doraemon game, but it is a RPG where you solve puzzles to deal damage. So, I'm using machine translation and watching the video to kind of figure this out. So pardon me if I don't get everything 100% right. But basically, it's kind of like an on-rails dungeon game. You kind of go into a stage and you just go through a series of encounters. It feels very mobile game-ish to me in some ways, and maybe it was originally a mobile game. I didn't look into that. The article from 4Gamer, I believe, 4Gamer, I don't think mentioned any kind of iOS or Android version of this, but you basically are in these dungeons. You get in an encounter. Each character has a set of cards, it seems like, and when you select that card, it almost pops up like a WarioWare style puzzle kind of thing. So it's really quickly will show oh, here's watermelons and here's normal melons. What's the difference in number between these, or something like that? Or it'll be here's this shape that needs to fit through this hole. Which hole does it fit in? And you have to answer it pretty quickly. And it sounds like, from what I was reading, that you can solve multiple puzzles in a single turn. And as long as you solve it under the time limit of that, basically you get to do, multiple puzzles to do more damage, essentially, kind of thing. So it looks really cute, and it basically seems like it's an edutainment title for elementary school kids in particular. So I'm kind of interested in it. The only thing is I can't really read Japanese, and the fact that it is a fast-paced puzzle game means it will probably be really difficult for me to really try to figure out on the fly. I also feel a lot of guilt over never playing through Betia. Admittedly, Betia is a game that is an English learning game, and so there's not a lot for me to learn there. I mean, elementary school puzzles are not probably that hard for me either, but at least it probably would be a little more interesting than just being wow, the cat jumped over the fence, and then doing damage from that. Betia is a cool game. I just don't know if I could spend 20 to 30 hours playing it and have a good time. But I do like the characters and stuff in Betia a little bit. It's very cute game in a lot of ways. And they added a whole other story mode on day, I forget if it was the first day or the first month that it came out, but it was a full priced add-on for that game. It was kind of crazy. So maybe someday I will play through Betia, but I'm glad we streamed it that one time. It was a very cool game to at least look at, kind of thing. And then the last game is actually one I played a couple weeks ago at this point, but I didn't talk about it because it was a mobile game. And a lot of times with mobile games, I don't necessarily know what to say unless something really jumps out at me. So I kind of left it alone, and maybe you shouldn't discriminate against mobile games as much, but I look at a lot of mobile games, and so I have to kind of very, very generously cut them out of my news covered or news, diet, I guess. I feel especially all the ones that are just kind of the generic gotcha pull ones. So, but there's this game that was announced, I think a few weeks back ago, called Monster Universe, and it kind of caught my eye because it looked very Monster Hunter story-ish in its presentation, very like cute anime, cel-shaded characters, maybe close to Monster Hunter Story 2 with like kind of taller characters rather than all chibi ones kind of thing. But yeah, it has that very similar art style. And then the more direct connection though is that you actually like ride monsters in the game. So like, it seems like every character is riding on top of some kind of dragon in a very Monster Hunter Story like proportion kind of way as well. So it looks very similar to that visually, but it is actually a different type of game. It's not a turn-based RPG. It's an action RPG. And from what I'm reading, it seems like structurally, I have not played Genshin Impact, but it seems like it might be structurally closer to Genshin Impact, where basically you can boot it into it free to play and you can beat it technically, using what you start with. But there's like, you can go and gotcha pull different characters, and all those characters have different like story episodes and things like that. So if you want the extra side stories with characters, that's how you can get them that way. So it actually looks pretty nice. There were some reviews of it because it actually just came out, I think, in the last week. And the reviews seem to think that maybe is a little basic in the combat department, which maybe for an action RPG on a phone, it makes sense, but I will say I have not played action RPGs on a phone before, so I could be completely wrong. People play, Fortnite with build mode on phone, I believe, so, I'm sure there are crazy video games out there that you can use touch controls only for that are pretty challenging, even between using mouse and keyboard kind of thing, right? But yeah, it is. It did come to PC though. I was reading the article and it sounds like they were saying, oh, it's going to come to PC later. But I looked this week and it looks like it's already on PC. You can go play it on Steam now, although it's under a different name. So I'm wondering if in the English localization they had to change the name from Monster Universe to Volzerk Monsters and the Lands Unknown. However, despite having a different name on Steam, the game is not in English at this point. So it seems like if you play it, it is entirely in Japanese. So it's a cool looking thing. It's free to play, so maybe worth checking out if you got a lot of extra time on your hands right now. But I thought it was just like, it really kind of jumped out at me, I guess, like visually, yeah. But like gameplay wise, the reason I didn't really mention it that much in the first place was because it looks kind of bland gameplay wise. Maybe not bland. It looks like a traditional action RPG. So I couldn't really figure out what I was like wanted out of it kind of thing. But it being on Steam, I think kind of raises its profile a little bit. Maybe that's me being a little, unfair to mobile games a little bit, but I think to me at least it makes it more likely I would check it out kind of thing. So anyways, those were some games that came out recently that I thought looked pretty neat. DoraThink is definitely the one I care the most out of all of those. Hi-Fi Rush is definitely right behind that. And then Monster Universe, I could kind of take or leave, I think, for the most part. But it's a cute looking thing. And if someone was like, you have to play this video game, I would be perfectly fine playing it. I'm almost certain. So yes. It's time. Time for Jillian's Corner. Little news break here between games coming out and then the other news stories. Hey, guess what? We got some hot Buddy Mission Bond news coming up. I should have said that at the beginning of the podcast. But anyways, Jillian's Corner, though. Jillian has asked us a question, and I will answer it today. I don't even know what the intro to this segment is anymore. So it's just like Jillian's here. Like, I don't want to sit here and explain every time. This used to be the Patreon question. You can also ask your own questions. I got to figure out what the heck Jillian's Corner is going to be at some point if I'm going to get anybody else to participate. But for now, it's Jillian's Corner. So anyways, her question was, what is a good game with a not very good name? I had a hard time thinking of the one for this, honestly. I couldn't think of anything that looked like offensive names that I just think did not work well for a game, honestly. So I just kind of had to pick some things here and there that I think naming was kind of a problem with, but like these are kind of nitpicking kind of things for the most part. But the game I think that probably was like maybe most disserviced by its name was Donkey Kong 94 on Game Boy. If you don't know, Donkey Kong 94 on Game Boy is not a remake of the arcade game Donkey Kong. It is a full-fledged platform puzzle adventure in the style of the Mario and Donkey Kong games, which came later. So this was kind of the first Mario and Donkey Kong game. So a lot of people just didn't know at the time that it was like not just a Donkey Kong port, even myself at the time. And I feel like this is one of those first things when you start hearing like hidden gems on the internet. People are like, hey, did you know Donkey Kong on Game Boy is a different video game kind of thing? So yeah, I just feel like the name has done a disservice to it. Maybe it's in my head because I feel like recently I've seen articles pop up there like, hey, Donkey Kong 94, again, which I don't really know why. I feel like it's like a Doki Doki Panic situation at this point where you're like, did you know Doki Doki Panic, Super Mario Brothers 2? And like, I'm like, well, I would expect anyone in their 30s that's been a part of the video game industry to know about that, but maybe like, younger people don't. I don't know. So maybe younger people are just finding out about Donkey Kong 94. But yeah. So yeah. Anyways, I just think that was like a little bit of a poor naming. I think Mario and Donkey Kong is a great name for that, but I can totally understand why they went with that name. I don't like fault them per se, but yeah, in hindsight, maybe it undersold that game a little bit. The Xenosaga games, nothing wrong with the main name of them, just Xenosaga Episode 1, 2, and 3. However, if you don't know, the Xenosaga games all have German subtitles. I cannot tell you what any of those German subtitles are. Like, what were so far. I don't know. If there's German subtitles, I don't know what they mean. I don't know what they translate to. Maybe like a more hardcore Monolith Soft fan knows, but like I feel like I never hear their subtitles mentioned whatsoever other than just people going like, oh yeah, it's German, huh? I'm like, yeah, that is a German subtitle kind of thing. So I just feel like it's kind of useless information. If you know my feelings about Xenosaga's story, maybe that is in line with my feelings about a lot of Xenosaga's story points of just like, does this matter? Like, yes, it fills in a blank somewhere, but does this really matter to what's happening right now kind of thing? So yeah, but those German subtitles, I feel like just nobody talks about them ever. So maybe I'm just not in the right circle. I mean, I've been pretty staunchly against Xenosaga 3 for a very long time, which I think kind of ostracized me from that fan base in a lot of ways. So yeah, but this is not necessarily a bad name for a game. I don't even know what it translates to, but I do think that is hard to say doo-doo-dee-da-doo-da. I can say it with confidence right now. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but I can say it with confidence. So doo-doo-dee-da-doo-da, but like if you go doo-doo-dee-da-doo-da, it's like kind of hard to say kind of thing. So not a bad name, but a hard to say name if you're an American man or American lady or any kind of English speaking, or actually you just don't speak Japanese probably. That's the bigger thing. Or it's inclusively cumbersome unless you are Japanese and know how to speak Japanese. So yeah. I guess as long as you know how to speak Japanese, you don't need to be Japanese to know how to speak Japanese. So, anyways, this other one's just kind of one of those weird ones, which is PUBG Battlegrounds. If you don't know, PUBG stands for Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. So it's like Player Unknown Battlegrounds kind of thing. It's one of those weird things. I will say, I think PUBG feels good to say. I think people enjoy saying the word PUBG. You want to play some PUBG? You want to play some Apex? You want to play Fortnite? Like, I feel like they're like two sounds. Fortnite, Apex, 2 syllables. PUBG, 2 syllables. Your battle royale game. That's why Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier failed, because that's too much of a mouthful. No. But yeah, it's one of those weird things. And this is not a name thing, but it's something that did actually really push me away from playing a game that I would have really enjoyed. God Hand's box art. God Hand's box art in the US, I didn't understand what it was trying to convey. So if you don't know, God Hand in Japan, it's a game about punching people a bunch because it's like a brawler kind of thing, and the guy has a god hand, and so he's a super powered hand. And so on the Japanese box art, he's like punching through a guy's mouth out the back of his head kind of thing, and they're like, no, that's too violent for the US. So in the US one, they have him punching past the guy, so it just looks like he has like a hand like missing him. And I like, when I was growing up, I just never understood what that meant. And I just looked at it and was like, what is this box? This box makes no sense to me. Obviously he's punching. Maybe. He's just holding his arm up, kind of. And the guy in the back is screaming. And like, what is happening? They should have just completely redone that box art, is the real answer, in my opinion. If you're going to do that, just make a new box art. Just put put some nice Gene art on there. So yeah. Anyways. So yeah, I feel like Donkey Kong 94 might be the one actual game that fits that criteria per se, but I figured I would give you some more general answers around that space for me, kind of thing. Yeah, I went through all the games I've beaten and was just like, yeah, these names are all fine. I can't think of anything that was like, this is like a bad name. So Anyways, tell me about your favorite bad name games. I can't think of any, honestly. So, Headhunter. I don't know. I like the name Headhunter. Wadham. Wadham's all right. Imagine Ice Champions. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for Jillian's Corner. Thank you again, Jillian, for your question. I appreciate it. At some point, I'll figure out if the Jillian's Corner is going to survive, or if questions will transform into something, or if there will be something going on with that. But for now, I have a giant list of questions from Jillian, so I am continuing to consume them as I want. Anyways, back into news. We got two news stories here. One is a happy news story. The other one is a sad news story, if you care about it, I guess. The first one, very happy news story. Buddy Mission Bond. Stuff's happening. Not video game stuff, unfortunately. We will never see another Buddy Mission Bond game, I'm almost certain. Could be wrong. I would love to see different. Like, I mean, I talked about this before. Ruby Party game sales are weird. They're like, oh, it sold 10,000 units. And it's like, but like there's tons and tons and tons and tons of merchandise that comes around this game. So it's like, are they just like the whales, right? They're just like, yeah, buy all this stuff, ladies. You office ladies making a huge paycheck, come in here, buy all of it. Anyways, so they announced a lot of new things, but the three main things, there's a ton of trinkets and bags and all that stuff. So a new wave of merch. But the three big things are one or two drama CDs, one that covers something with the Phantom. I won't say who the Phantom is, and also covers something with a character called Fuga. Which I feel like Fuga gets a lot of coverage in that game, so I don't know really what more there is to say about him, but there's a drama CD for that. I never got the drama CDs. There's already, let me think, there's 3 drama CDs so far, I think, so this is another 2, so I think that's 5 total. I never got them, but apparently the limited editions came with like physical like scripts for the drama CDs, so if you get those limited edition ones, you can get those actual texts and then like, you know, try to machine translate them or something, or directly translate them if you want, right? Or if you know Japanese, just listen to it through your ears. But anyways, but I have not bought those because I kind of try to avoid drama CDs unless they're dirt cheap, just because I know I'm not going to do a lot with them, just because it's like mostly listening, right? But it's very cool. The scripts are in there, and the special editions for those original 3, I believe, are sold out at this point. So I'd have to like go out of my way to go get the books or whatever and things like that. So I don't know. Maybe someday if I find them cheap on Yahoo auctions, once everybody's cleared out and they've like left their Lukes and Aarons on the floor, they've moved on, and I can come in, you know, to the dance floor afterward and be like, hello, my boys, and pick them up off the ground and be like, let's go dance, and I will upload you to archive.org. so yeah. But the bigger thing out of all these, and the one I'm most interested in, is that they are selling another Blu-ray. So this is a Blu-ray that includes 2 things. Medio Live. This was a live stream that happened, I believe, towards the beginning of 2021. Or maybe it was the end of 2021. Either way, I believe it was like 2021 though. And I believe it was mostly a musical performance. So the game is a really heavy emphasis on music. And I believe Medio Live was a live stream that was mostly about live performance of music. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's what it was at the time from my memory. And then also the Blu-ray will also include the Mikaruga Cup on there too. So that's going to be the new event that just happened more recently, that is kind of set around something in a soccer stadium. I don't really understand like what it was, but so yeah, that's up for sale. I believe it might only be being sold on Game City right now, and it comes out, if you go through the conversion, it's like 150, was it 15,000 yen or something like that, but like $120 US right now. So it is pretty pricey. And if I were to buy through Game City, I think I'd have to go through a proxy service, which would make it even more pricey. The last Blu-ray I bought off Amazon. So I will probably wait to see if I can just buy it off Amazon, because Amazon is very friendly with shipping stuff reasonably, you know, cheap, as long as like the actual seller is willing to ship internationally, kind of thing. So I think I got the last one for about $70, and I think it was like maybe like $15-20 shipping, which was pretty reasonable, I felt like. So it's a little under $100, I think, is what I paid for it. And you know, the value I get out of those can be questionable. It is 4 hours of watching 4 men talk. But the musical interstitials were fun, and I think the characters do a good job emoting, and it feels just kind of like watching a Buddy Mission Bond scene without machine translation. And they're very expressive characters, and you can kind of at least get an idea of the dynamics of what's happening, even if you can't really tell what's going on. But the Blu-ray that I got actually did have this entire script for the dramas on there, so I need to get that scanned at some point. So at some point, I've been kind of rethinking my scanning plans more recently, and maybe going into the book destruction industry of breaking down my books and scanning them more cleanly. So, but I might do one last swing at trying to do a book scanning thing, maybe a custom book scanner that I build kind of thing. I'm not a handy person though, so we'll see. I've been saying that a long time, but I feel like it's time I finally make a decision and do something, or start breaking down them books. Take those spines off. Exciting. So yeah, I'm glad Buddy Mission Bond's still going strong, at least from a merchandise perspective. And hopefully there's some cool stuff in there. I don't know if anyone's ever going to translate those drama CDs or anything like that. I would say probably not. Maybe a long time down the way. I'm still of the mind that I don't necessarily think Buddy Mission Bond's ever going to get a ton of fanfare, even if it gets fan translated. I think there will be a group of people who like it, but I don't think it's going to get a huge splash, 10 years down the line or anything like that. And our last news story is a somewhat sad one. Dragon Quest Daiboken, I believe is what it is. Soulbound. So if you don't know, this is the series of Dragon Quest games that was based off the Dragon Quest anime. That's a remake of an old Dragon Quest anime that I think was based off Dragon Quest 2 or something like that. I don't know. Long chain of things that I don't understand. But Soulbound was the mobile game. And I actually thought this mobile game looked pretty cool. I don't think it ever came out in English. I could be wrong. And I almost considered playing it at one point, but never quite did. However, it seems like that game has not succeeded, though, and it will be getting shut down starting April 27th. It did last a bit longer than 1 year. It's launched in September 2021. Now it's shutting down April 27th, 2023. It's about a year and a half. But, this is about a typical lifespan for a Square Enix game. So, for a Square Enix live game that does not succeed. So, rest in peace, Dragon Quest Soulbound. We will miss you. And then, but it is still worth mentioning. I did go look into it. So, if you don't know, this game was announced with two other games at the same time. So this is all happened at once. But there's an arcade game called Dragon Quest Crossblades. All of them are Daiboken or something like that. I don't know. I can't say it. But the Crossblades was the arcade game by the Style Savvy developer Sin Sophia. I checked their website. That seems to still be going strong. I believe they're actually putting out a new version, and they're doing location testing for that version right now, it sounds like, or something. So that seems to be living on. I hope there's some kind of console version of that at some point. But I'm in no rush. I've got the other Dragon Quest card game I haven't even touched yet still, the Monster Battle Road. And then Infinity Strash is still coming. This last time we saw this was at Tokyo Game Show. It looks like it's coming along okay. It's kind of a behind the back action kind of thing. I'm kind of mixed on it. I think if it was multiplayer, I'd be more into it, but it's definitely looks single player. So I don't know. I think I might rather play Dragon Quest Treasures personally, but we'll see. I think it's a generic 2023 release date, so we'll see where I'm feeling whenever that thing shows up. But it looks kind of neat. If it's short, maybe especially, I might give it a go. So I should look into how long Dragon Quest Treasures is. I'm not sure how long that game is. I would like to play that game still. I just haven't taken the time to, because I know I will not play it here in the near future, because Soma Bringer is still kind of getting all caught up in my gameplay time and the rut. Also, Animal Crossing, I feel like Animal Crossing, I'm kind of feel like I'm running out of things that I want to do in Animal Crossing Wild World other than just pay off my house, and I feel like I'm not making money fast enough to want to do that. So I may finally just cross it off and be like, I've played enough of this video game and mark it as beat or whatever, because I don't know. I don't necessarily think that. As time has gone on, I don't necessarily think that paying off your house in an Animal Crossing game is really the thing that's important in them personally. I think early on I definitely had that sentiment, but as time, those entries have progressed as well, I think it's been less important as well. But Wild World is definitely still within that formula of just build your house, build your house, build your house. So, I think there is some level of me that's I probably should build the house. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlWar.com is the website. Haven't made stream plans yet, but it will be at 6 p.m. Thursday, probably, assuming nothing happens. It's either going to be probably more Final Fantasy Chocobo Fables, Final Fantasy Fables, Chocobo Tales, or it might be something else. I don't know yet. I haven't figured things out, but you'll see a notification that will show up on the One Control Port YouTube channel that will give you an idea at least. I'll try at least 24 hours ahead of time, but if I slip, I slip. Whoops. Rest in peace. Ben slipped in the bathroom and can't post his stream schedule. I guess, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here, though. Thanks again for coming. OneControlPort.com is the website. If you do want to support me, remember that I do have a Ko-fi page that you can go ahead and donate money on, either a single donation or a monthly donation. I really appreciate that. That money will be going towards helping me get the Babylon's Fall video done as soon as possible. If it doesn't get to the goal by the time that happens, then it will be, helping me get whatever my next big video is going to be done as soon as possible. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great week. Bye.